안녕하세요. 원다입니다. 미국으로 이민 간 한국인들 중에는 현재 미국에서 꽤 이름을 떨치는 유명한 사람들이 많이 있습니다. 그 중에서도 특히 많은 미국인들에게 지적인 영향을 미치고 있는 한국인이 있는데요. 그녀는 다른 이민자들과 다르게 미국 사회에서 여전히 한국 이름을 고수하고 살고 있으며 각종 미국 유명 TV 프로 및 하버드, MIT 등 미국 최고 대학에서 강연을 해왔습니다. 그녀는 미국 방송과의 인터뷰에서 다음과 같은 말을 했습니다. 저는 제가 한국인인 것을 좋아합니다. 한국인은 엄청나게 강력한 역사와 유산을 가진 아주 놀라운 사람들입니다. 저는 제 이름 이민진을 사랑하고 부모님이 제 이름과 그 의미에 대해 깊이 생각했다는 것을 행운으로 여깁니다. 그녀는 가난한 이민자의 딸로서 예일대를 졸업하고 로스쿨에서 법학학위를 받았으며 변호사로 일했습니다. 그 후 건강상의 문제로 변호사를 그만두고 작가의 길을 가게 됩니다. 그녀는 자전적인 소설로 미국 최고의 상을 수상했으며 식민지를 겪고 어쩔 수 없이 일본에 정착하게 된 제1교포들이 겪은 수많은 차별과 아픔, 그리고 일본인들의 잔인함을 다룬 다음 작품으로 미국 사회에 엄청난 반향을 일으키게 됩니다. 그것은 그녀가 30년 동안 기획한 4세대에 걸친 대하 드라마 같은 웅장한 소설이기 때문이기도 했지만 4년 동안 일본에 거주하면서 직접 제1교포들을 인터뷰하여 사실 그대로를 소설 속에 녹여낸 역사서 같은 소설이었기 때문이었습니다. 그동안 일본이 엄청난 돈을 들이부어 서구 사회에 철저하게 포장해놓았던 일본 이미지의 실체를 이 소설책 하나로 낱낱이 밝혀버렸으니까요. 이 책이 출간된 2017년 그해 이 책은 뉴욕타임즈 베스트 10에 선정되었으며 미국 최고의 상이라 불리는 전미도서상 최종 수상 후보에 오르기도 했습니다. 그녀의 소설 100만장자를 위한 공짜 음식과 파친코 이 두 책은 출판 이후 지금까지 미국에서 베스트셀러의 자리를 굳히고 있습니다. 이 두 작품으로 인해 그녀는 박사학위나 MFA가 없지만 미국 인문예술대학 상위 2위에 랭킹되는 최상위 명문대 에머스트 대학의 교수로 재직하게 됩니다. 처음으로 에머스트의 교수가 되던 2019년 9월 그녀는 에머스트의 가장 전통 깊고 의미 깊은 연중 강의 강의자로 초대받습니다. 그녀의 임팩트 있는 강의가 학생들의 마음에 감동을 일으키자 모든 학생들은 일제히 일어나 그녀에게 기립박수를 보냅니다. 그녀의 50분짜리 강의를 10분 정도로 압축하여 여러분들에게 들려드릴까 합니다. 함께 보시죠.
Now, it's a great honor to introduce this year's DeMott lecturer. Min Jin Lee is an acclaimed novelist, essayist, critic. She's the recipient of numerous honors, prizes, and prestigious fellowships from the Guggenheim Foundation, for example, and the Radcliffe Institute of Advanced Study at Harvard. Min immigrated to Queens, New York from Seoul, Korea when she was 7 years old. She won writing prizes as a student at Yale. She attended law school afterwards, got her law degree, and started a career in corporate law. Please join me in honoring, celebrating, and welcoming Min Jin Lee.
Thank you, President Martin. Thank you so much for letting me be here. Thank you for your generous introduction and for this extraordinary opportunity to share my work with you. Now, when I was sitting where you are sitting right now, I thought I was going to major in economics. But later, I switched to history, and after I graduated from college, I went to law school. And then I practiced for 2 years. I quit being a lawyer in 1995, and I started to write fiction. I know a lot about failure. I know a lot about exclusion and what motivates people. That's what I study. I study what motivates people, and I study and I predict behavior, because that is how you create plot. So today, I'd like to talk to you about the relationship of love and the formation of your history. My parents and 2 sisters and I immigrated to America in 1976 when I was 7. My father is from Wonsan, the northeastern seaport city in what is now North Korea. And my mother is a minister's daughter from Busan, the southernmost tip of what is now South Korea. They were raised on the opposite sides of the country. And my father was born in 1934, and my mother was born in 1941, when there was still one Korea. And it was still a colony of Japan. And in 1950, at the onset of the Korean War, my grandmother secured passage for my father and his elder brother on an American warship as refugees, and they were sent down south. They thought that this separation would last just a few days. However, my grandmother never saw her sons again. At age 16, my father became a war refugee, and he lived in war refugee camps. When my father and his brother arrived in Busan, they ran out of money right away in a few days. So my father worked as a food peddler, selling kimbap. Eventually, my father put himself through college, and he worked as a marketing executive at a company. One day, my mother, after graduating from college, went to look for a temporary office job, and my father interviewed her. And after the interview, he asked her out for a cup of coffee. And then he asked her to marry him. Today, how they met would fall under the purview of sexual harassment. Now, growing up, my parents didn't really talk about my sisters and me about dating. The one explicit rule was that when we married, we had to marry Korean. We were not supposed to fool around. Our family struggled intensely in America, and each of us had defined roles. My sisters and I were to do our chores and to do our schoolwork, and our parents would work to provide for us when we first moved here. My father and my mother ran a newspaper stand the first year in America, a newspaper stand that was about a quarter of the size of this stage. And later on, they ran a wholesale jewelry business where they sold costume jewelry to peddlers, again, about half the size of this stage. My parents worked 6 days a week, and they closed the store on Sundays only for church. They were always tired, and my sisters and I felt deeply sorry for them. So as you know, from having read Pachinko, from 1910 to 1945, Japan brutally colonized Korea. And it was a very difficult and humiliating period of history for Koreans. When any nation is colonized, it is fair to say that it is done expressly to exploit its resources and its people. And the consequences of colonization last far beyond one generation. And after World War II ended, the 5,000-year-old nation of Korea was cut in two, and families were separated, never to meet again. My father was only 16 when he lost his mother and sisters and his home. When I was 16, like many of you, I was a junior in high school. Surely, you can remember that age more vividly than I. Now, some of you may have already experienced great tragedies in your young life. So perhaps it is easier for you to imagine what my father may have gone through. To this day, my father does not know when his mother died, but surely she is gone. My uncle, who traveled with him that December of 1950, left behind a pregnant wife, and he never saw her again, and he never met his unborn child. I have no doubt that my uncle loved his wife, surely with no less intensity than any of us when we fall deeply in love. My paternal grandmother lost her sons, her country, and starved to death. I respected my father. As a boy, he had lost everything. And as an immigrant, he had endured so many indignities. When he ran a newspaper stand, he wore a coat and tie to work. And I recall watching a white man fling a dime at him across the counter to purchase a copy of the Daily News. And in Korea, one must give any item with both hands to show mutual respect. My father had loaned money to fellow immigrants without interest when they could not make rent, even as he ate half a sandwich to save money for my tuition. And I knew that my father was a good man. Let me tell you a secret. My work is not my passion. My work is very good, but there's no such work in the world that you will love every day or that can give you happiness all the time. There is no romantic relationship either that you will love every day. Ask any married person. There is no real friendship that will give you joy every day. I am saying this not to discourage you, but to give you perspective and courage, because I want you to expect boredom, irritation, rejection, anger, mediocrity, inequity, enmity, and difficulty in your college years and in your life ahead. And if you endure these things, and if you engage these things, if you honestly face your obstacles with a clear eye, you will also find meaning, and you will find purpose, and you will find satisfaction too, and perhaps sometimes great, unforgettable passion. Now, as a novelist, I will make this claim. Since the beginning of time, throughout all known history cross-culturally, Homo sapiens have wanted two things. They want to belong and they want to love, which by definition requires community in which you can belong and an object or a subject to love. Your genetic mandate requires you to have others in your life. I assure you, sometimes it'll be annoying. And sometimes you will feel rejected. And sometimes it will feel as if you found a missing piece to your broken self. But know this, you belong now. You are loved now, and you are making your history now. And thank you for letting me sit at your table.
정말 많은 생각과 통찰을 가지게 해주는 감동적인 강의였습니다. 다음 영상에서는 그녀가 많은 미국 방송에 출연해 일본인들의 실상과 제1교포들의 고통에 대해 파헤친 파친코에 대한 인터뷰 및 MIT 강의를 소개하려고 합니다. 시청해주셔서 감사합니다. 원더였습니다.